Okay, so welcome everyone. Let us take a few moments in silence in gathering our consciousness, bringing mind back home in the body for a couple of minutes, then we will start. So, picking up the threads from page number 56. Yeah, anyone would like to read this passage in front of us?
Yeah, I'll read it. Psychological states and the nervous envelope. The mother. The vital body surrounds the physical body with a kind of envelope which has almost the same density as the vibrations of heat which one can observe on a very hot day. It is this which protects the body from all contagion, fatigue, exhaustion, and even from accidents. So if this envelope is completely intact, it protects you from everything but a little strong in emotion, a little fatigue, or some dissatisfaction, or a shock of any kind is enough to scratch it, as it were, and the slightest scratch allows any sort of intrusion. Medical science also now recognizes that if you are in perfect vital equilibrium, you do not catch illnesses, or in any case, you have a kind of immunity from contagion. If you have this equilibrium, this inner harmony, which keeps the envelope intact, it protects you from everything. There are people who lead a perfectly ordinary life, who know how to sleep as they should, eat as they should, and their nervous envelope is so intact that they pass through all dangers as though nothing concerned them. It is a capacity one can cultivate in oneself. If you become aware of the weak spot in your envelope, a few minutes of concentration, of calling to the force, of inner peace are sometimes enough for it to be set right, cured, and for the untoward thing to vanish. Thank you. Ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Should I just read one? There's one sentence where it starts from "It is this which protects the body" until
Mm-hmm.
until intrusion, sort of intrusion. Just read
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
It is this which protects the body from all contagion, fatigue, exhaustion, and even from accidents. So, if this envelope is completely intact, it protects me from everything but a little strong in emotion, a little fatigue, some dissatisfaction, or a shock of any kind is enough to scratch it, as it were, and the slightest scratch allows any sort of intrusion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So beautiful, I think very, very crisp, clear passage. And we may have read a few words and lines in earlier other contexts also. Very practically relevant, very, very practical, as with mother's words. So mother relates this with whenever there is a heated up surface, we see like a little vibration around it. It's visible, if you have seen it closely, like in Indian streets, if you see the vendors on the street with hot tawas, and on around the tawas you see like a little, like a wavy thing which can be seen. It's not even that it cannot be seen because of that heated up surface. So mother says that it has almost as the same density as the vibrations of heat which one can observe on a very hot day. So that is what the vital body or the nervous envelope that we are talking about. And earlier also in other paragraphs we had read that we are the ones who are making it with our discipline or the kind of life and emotions and thoughts that we have, we make it strong. And as she says, that even a little too strong an emotion and you have a scratch on it. And if we look at it, then we can actually see that I don't know from how many scratches which we get day to day, we are still saved. And we don't feel grateful usually for that, that wow, I am still relatively healthy. While if we see the poison that is present in our life, it would be a good amount. And yet the body has this capacity or the resilience that it still retains the health, even after so many attacks. So it is this nervous envelope which protects the body from all contagion, fatigue, exhaustion, and even from accidents. So see, this would come even before, when we are talking of immunity, when we are talking of healing. We always talk about immune system and immune cells, the blood that we have. This is even before that. Even before that, there is a step that we usually miss, which is the crossing of this subtle army or the nervous envelope. That already has happened, and now the cells will get the effect and it will be more tangible. So the more subtle we get in our consciousness, the more we are living in the gross level, we are not aware of these subtle things, subtle openings. uh, the more subtle we get in our consciousness, the more we are conscious of the inner ripples, how everything outside is triggering this thought in me, this feeling in me. And the more we become available to that happening, then we can be conscious of this subtle envelope. And hence, if the moment there is a scratch on it, I'll be like more sensitive and I can work on it then. Otherwise, there are holes pierced in it, but I have no clue. Like I'm missing. The person is missing. As Kabirji says, Thari Kaya Nagar ka kaun dhani. So there is no person home who is taking care of the palace, and the crops are eaten up, the animals, wild animals are grazing, but there is no one home. There is no one home even to feel the pain. So there comes a time then the disease manifests in such a big form that then only I am uh, woken up from the slumber. So our slumber is very deep, very, very deep. And it depends, either with a little stress, the slumber can be woken up, or it takes a big, full fledged disease. So that, oh, and many times, even after the disease, full fledged ones, we don't wake up. We all have such examples. We may become adapted to the disease कि भैया ये तो होता ही है, सबके साथ होता है, मेरे साथ भी हो रहा है. No special signal coming. ये तो lifestyle diseases हैं. So we name it, we give it a label, and we don't really go to the roots. And one lifetime gone, even the disease came like a big knock on the door, but I didn't use it to wake up. Otherwise, as they say that Buddhas or Bodhisattvas or masters, yogis, They have this thing that they are so sensitive. Even a little scratch of pain, or some ripple somewhere, they just can't stand it. They have to go to the root. But we become too tolerant of all this poison in our life, and we become used to the poison, so it doesn't bother us much until it becomes a life and a death situation. And even then, we have the capacity not to wake up. So yeah, any comments here, the first few lines, anyone?
Yeah, it's more a question, just sharing an observation. I don't know if it's, I mean, it should not be the same thing, otherwise it would be mentioned. Like if you just even look at, like, you hold your hand, say, against a even colored wall, white is great, but in general, if you look at it, you, like, if you just look at it for, I don't know, for 30 seconds even, you feel, you can see the outer, there's some, right? Like, you have seen it. So it's not that it's hidden. It's just that we either don't know it exists, so we look at it and we miss it. I mean, it's amazing. The first time I realized, like, I remember I saw it. This is real, right? I may not believe it is, but it is. It's even visible, all these, I don't even know what to say. Yeah, but thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I think we are so absorbed in the day to day things which we consider so precious, so precious, that there is hardly any sense available to give attention to that. And energy is limited. As we are in our ordinary state of consciousness, we have limited time, we have limited energy. So either I can make something else real or this real. And we have all, there are people living right now with us on the earth, where who have made this more concrete than the grosser happens. So it's just, and we don't even know that we are the ones who are making our lives. We think that no, I'm just a victim of situations. But if we see how much power we have, I was reading a few lines of Savitri, which I was sharing on the groups. So beautiful, so really beautiful. It, just let me read it. I think it resonates here also. Just a second. Yeah. So it says, obedient to a high command, she sat, regarding Savitri. Time, life, and death were passing incidents. Now, for us, time, life, and death, they are not passing incidents. So they are the ones which is all the time absorbing me, all the time. And he says, obedient to a high command, she sat. Time, life, death were passing incidents, obstructing with their transient view her sight. So all the things, this is what we call Maya, we give these importance. They are the ones which become like a curtain, like a big block of curtain in front of me and what really needs to be attended, obstructing with their transient view her sight. And how little things in our day to day life become so important, so important. भाई इसको तो अटेंड करना ही करेगा, तुम उसको बाद में करना, हाई कमांड को बाद में करना, पहले इसको कर लो, ये बहुत जरूरी है, अभी के अभी चाहिए इसका आंसर. So obstructing with their transient view her sight that must break through and liberate the God imprisoned in the visionless mortal man. The inferior nature born into ignorance still took too large a place. And if we look at our lives are full of that littleness, the lower nature, the inferior nature, and which we consider so concrete. The inferior nature born into ignorance still took large a place. It veiled herself and must be pushed aside to find her soul. It has to be pushed aside. We wait for it to disappear, और we wait कि भैया पहले ये हो जाए, अभी ये बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चल रहा है, पहले ये हो जाए ना, फिर हम उसको अटेंड करेंगे जो वेट कर रहा है हमारे लिए। और वो पहले कभी होता नहीं है। एक के बाद एक के बाद एक, वी हैव सो मेनी थिंग्स लाइंड अप इन अवर डे टू डे लाइव्स. Time, life, and death, they are the ones which obscure our sight and do not let us unimprison the Godhead within. That's the task we all have to do. Rest, everything comes secondary. Everything comes secondary. But हमारे लिए everything else is primary and this is secondary. अरे ये तो होता रहेगा, तो लंबा प्रोसेस है, बाद में अटेंड करेंगे। तो पहले ये छोटे 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 जो बिखरे पड़े हैं. And here also, we can give all kinds of excuses to ourselves. We can say all life is yoga, Sri Aurobindo ne bola hai, right? But we don't realize that all life is yoga becomes later. Earlier, I have to concentrate, I have to ingather, and I have to become sincere about what I really, really want from this human birth, precious human birth. Then all life can become yoga. So this, the first. So it depends, what I give priority to, what is important for me. And I just have to stop then complaining. If I am giving importance to which doesn't deserve that much of importance, then I must not stop complaining that my life is like this or that, because I am the one who is choosing. So who decides if even after reading these words, if we do not work on these steps, they are practices, they are tools that Mother has left, like jewels scattered. And even now, if I don't give it importance, God knows, then who can? And we are protected if we see how many strong emotions come and go and come and go, and yet we are okay, relatively healthy. So body is very resilient. We are already in the lap all the time of the divine. Otherwise, how is it possible that things are still okay? So first we give lots of scratches to ourselves. Unknowingly we are giving scratches, but a little too strong an emotion, and we really justify our emotions. कि अरे बिल्कुल बनता था. Like I was right in doing this or expressing the emotion. अरे emotion नहीं express करेंगे, human beings हैं. So all kinds of excuses are there. But now if we had enough of these incidents, and if we want to rise above, because this will never end, we will have to transcend, this will never end. As he says in the lines that we read, this has to be pushed aside. We can't wait for it to lose grip or disappear. It won't. So a little too strong an emotion, a little fatigue, some dissatisfaction or a shock of any kind is enough to scratch it. And what do we do? All the time, as if with a blade, I am on my skin, on my nervous envelope, I, like a billy, like a cat, how it scratches जब उसको खुजली होती है. That's what I'm doing on myself. And then I'm saying that situations are responsible or whatever. So we have to stop doing that. We have to be really kind to ourselves. So we often complain about नमक, कि आपने मेरे वूंड्स पे नमक छिड़का, बट हमें ये नहीं दिखता कि वूंड तो मैं खुद ही बना रही हूँ खरोच खरोच के. We have to stop, because on a healthy skin, namak doesn't do anything, but on a wound namak has wonders. So we have to see what are we doing. Yeah, anything here, anyone?
Yeah, it's not maybe very directly related, but when you were sharing, especially the wound part, how it's said again and again that we have a body, right? We have come here. So pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. I think we don't understand this, right? This feels like, okay, yeah, I get it, pain is inevitable, but suffering, but how we, I mean, so many examples are there now in which we see how something happens to me and I then cling to it. I am the one to whom this happened. How I cling to my pain, that if somebody is saying, let go, I can even be angry with that person that how rude you are, right? How insensitive. Because there are certain things which we have learned that they are good things, right? Like being sensitive, being like, oh my God, this happened to you. That is what we call compassion. It's a bit strange. And you know there's a story, right? That when Buddha had explained this concept about the two arrows or three arrows, like how if we have actually got hit by an arrow, there's pain, of course. And yet it's a limited pain. It's a salvageable pain. Like, or it could be much, but yes, there's one arrow and there's pain. But then he said what how we do it is that we just put another arrow right there that, oh my God, this happened to me. Oh my God, will I ever be able to walk? Will this leave a scar? We have our own arrows that we keep hitting it at the same wound, and then we lash out that, oh my God, I'm in pain. And how can the universe be so unkind to hit me there again and again, not realizing that the second, third, fourth arrow is my arrow that I am hitting on my wound. And the blindness is such that I think it's coming from the universe, and I am not the one who's opening to it. Yeah. Even the Mission Joy movie that you had shared once, a couple of months back or a year, I don't remember now, but that experiment by the scientist who basically had said that how when we have pain, like they were comparing the people who do meditation to the people who don't. So when the pain is there, the meditator's mind can feel the pain, and as soon as the stimulus is taken, the calmness comes, like as if nothing ever touched it. And that's the same thing we see in children, right? Like if they have fever, 103, 104, they'll be like lying down like this, that what has happened? And the moment they become okay, they are jumping with joy. And you're like, no, 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 tu bimar hai, rest, rest, right? Like we tell them, can now carry it. And in me, I have seen that carrying is very strong. Okay, I have say a backache, and now I'm okay. But my mind still is like, oh my God, walk properly, don't jump, don't do this because this happened to you. I mean, logically it feels yes, of course, that's how I will do it, and yet I am increasing or giving it too much there. I mean, I don't know, I'm making it more real and I'm not letting it go. I am holding on to those things. I thought it's a small thing, but thank you.
As mother says, that no part of your being should want the illness. And as we grow up, I don't know if we can say growing up, as we grow up, you know, since it's like all our sense of self is wounded and the conditioning is such that too much self obsession is there, too much insecurities are there, and little parts of us hiding here and there, they want the illness. And if we somebody asks me that, oh, but you called the illness, I would not admit it maybe, but some part of me wants the illness. And in kids, since mostly the little ones, the psychic being is in front, and there is a like a purity in them, in innocence, which is a direct flow. Ill hai to ill hai, as you were sharing, and they don't want the illness. But even in kids it can begin to develop, that if they are getting less attention and more attention when they are ill actually, so unknowingly they will develop this pattern. They would not even know that they are doing it. This happens with many kids, kids whose parents are not giving them care, nurture, foster. So they develop things like asthma, and the kid may not do it actively, but the asthma develops, and now the whole house is totally focused on the kid. And somehow now at least I am taken care of. So we do it unknowingly, but we do it as we grow up specifically. So slowly, even when we realize it later, in the later ages, I think we have to become conscious that no, no, I don't want the illness. Nothing in me demands the illness, wants the illness. I don't want any attention. I'm happy to be nobody, you know, and just want to do what is right in my life. So this want to be somebody really eats us up. We don't even know. Makes us a beggar, although we are sitting on a treasure and still begging all the time. Actually, in Kabirji's language, there is also this word where he uses that this ego sense, which comes, of course, through all the sensory input. Connected with that, ego sense will eat you up. Tohe maar, tora maas, bikave. बेच खाएंगे तेरे को. So he goes to that extent. What you were sharing, and that nothing, ego doesn't bother. Your body will be eaten up, but it won't bother, it can't stop, it has to fulfill itself. And even for the fulfillment of the ego, Sri Aurobindo says the best is to realize oneself and to consecrate one to the divine. Even for the fulfillment of the ego, that is the way. Otherwise it is ready to eat us up. Okay, so anything more here? Anyone?
Yeah, in these lines, where it says that a little too strong an emotion, a
Huh.
little fatigue, some dissatisfaction, right? Or a shock.
Hmm.
This is what causes the scratch, right? And this too is usually felt by the ego, right? मुझे कैसे बोल दिया? या और मैं बेचारी, सब बीमार है तो मुझे तो बीमार होना ही है. So everywhere, like the big one, that how could this be said to me, or ये तो too much हो गया, or I am the victim. Again, this is what causes the scratch again and again and again, and leads me to the opening, be open to the attack, opening myself to the attack. Yeah.
I found these lines very powerful, what Taru just read. And, it I am made to think again and again that how a little too strong an emotion, every day this happens. A little fatigue. कितना इजीली हमारे मुंह से निकलता है, मैं थक गई हूँ यार. बच्चों को भी, when kids are there, anybody is there, I'm tired, don't bother me. कितना इजीली हम बोल देते हैं. कितने स्क्रैचेस हम एक ही दिन के अंदर अपने आप को करते हैं, अपने नर्वस एनवेलप. इट्स सो इजी टू स्क्रैच इट एंड अट्रैक्ट all untoward things. And then in the end, mother puts it so beautifully that all you have to do is to call, just connect with her energy and it will get healed. So मुझे लगा इतना सिंपली इतनी प्रोफाउंड बात लिख दी, इतनी रिलेटेबल है हम सब से. ये हम कभी सोच भी नहीं सकते कि एक लिटिल फटीग जो मेंटली होती है, माइंड में ही होता है कि थक गए. क्योंकि कई बार जब इंटरेस्टिंग चीजें कर रहे होते हैं और मजा आ रहा होता तो थकान कहाँ फील होता है. So it is a state of mind only, yet all of us every day, how much we are scratching, and yet she is there to heal us. She is there, right there, all the time. Only we have to just remember her. शायद धीरे धीरे ये ड्रॉप हो जाएगा, क्योंकि कितना भी हम कोशिश करें मेंटली कि हम ये नहीं बोलेंगे, चाहे फटीग नहीं होंगे, So, yeah, this is difficult that I will never be fatigued. This is difficult. Or anger. But I guess if, as we are discussing again and again, that if we remember her or whosoever, if we keep our connect, these things, even when they come, they will drop, drop, drop. And I guess, yeah, that's it. Yeah, so beautiful.
Yeah. So I think one of the takeaways, at least that we can clearly see, is we have to stop scratching ourselves. So medical science also now recognizes that if you are in perfect vital equilibrium, you do not catch illnesses, or in any case, you have a kind of immunity from contagion. If you have this equilibrium, this inner harmony which keeps the envelope intact, it protects you from everything. So how beautiful again, and we can relate it with how we have, say, countries. We can look at it in context of anybody, any small institution when doing, and if we see a country, if there is inner harmony in the country, people are taking care of each other, living rightly in harmony, in goodwill for each other, then there is an army around the country. And that army is also composed of those people who are having goodwill for each other and taking care, genuinely living the right kind of a life. It automatically gives a lot of goodwill to that outer army also, because each drop has that purity. So even on the borders, who is standing, a kind of a pure energy, and it feels like stronger than a army of a country where inside there is always conflict going on, and that is the consciousness we carry on the borders also. So if you are in a perfect vital equilibrium, you do not catch illnesses. And it happens, that then we do, there are countries and there are many stories. I'm not too much versed with history, but at least this much I know, that there are many, many stories of countries, of nations, which have been relatively very neutral, very, very content with their own progress, growth, and they've been not engaged in many, very many wars with the other countries. So depends on what is the inner harmony that reflects in the border, also on the border, and border is will be impacted when the inner changes. So if you have this equilibrium, this inner harmony, and that is where the taming of the mind also comes into the picture. Because if I tame, at least have a little discipline in my life, a little sorting, organization in my life, that reflects in my nervous envelope, and that is what mother shares later. So if you have this equilibrium, this inner harmony which keeps the envelope intact, it protects you from everything. Now there are people who lead a perfectly ordinary life, who know how to sleep as they should. Now we all have, I'm sure, seen people like that in our lives, where they have a very disciplined, relatively disciplined life. टाइम पे खाएंगे, टाइम पे पिएंगे, टाइम पे उठेंगे, उनका खाना पीना भी, whatever, they have their own discipline about the khana pina. So there are people who lead a perfectly ordinary, it is not a very aim high life, which has a very high aim, spiritual aim, nothing, very basic, ordinary, grounded life. But there is a discipline in life. So there are people who lead a perfectly ordinary life, who know how to sleep as they should. सोने वोने का टाइम भी फिक्स है, उठने का टाइम फिक्स है, 4 बजे उठना है, 5 बजे उठना है. Who know how to sleep as they should, eat as they should. कौन से कॉम्बिनेशंस में खाना खाना है, अच्छा दूध के साथ नमक नहीं मिक्स करना. All kinds of things are there, and we carry our own mixings or whatever. So eat as they should, and their nervous envelope is so intact that they pass through all dangers as though nothing concerned them. So even this little organization at this, I would say, a lower level also, even that makes the nervous envelope intact. We may not really have a very high spiritual aim here, but a basic sorting, organizing, a disciplined life is there. काफी बार मैंने ऐसे भी देखा है, many people in India specifically, if they have a person who comes for the utensils, cleaning their utensils, they are so particular about it that they will make sure that they eat food before the person comes because they want the person to be clean right then and now when they are done with the food. They don't want anything in the sink. So these are the basic, like everyone has their own, what can we say? I don't know the word. Yeah, fantasies or yeah, क्या कहते हैं इसको, idiosyncrasies. बट वो काम करती है उनके लिए, जब तक काम कर रही है. बट अगेन एज मदर सेज दैट इवन दिस बेसिक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, बेसिक सॉर्टिंग, दिस हेल्प्स कीप द नर्वस एनवेलप इंटैक्ट. इट इज अ कैपेसिटी वन कैन कल्टिवेट. अगर अभी नहीं है, अभी हमको फील हो रहा है कि अरे छोटी सी बात पे हमारा हिल जाता है पूरा का पूरा, सो वन कैन कल्टिवेट इट इफ वन वांट्स टू. It is a capacity one can cultivate in oneself if you become aware of the weak spot in your envelope. That awareness is important. Ki acha, and one readiness is there that, oh, this is what is lacking. This is an imperfection in me. This is like a curious scientist observes the science that he is doing. We have to observe ourselves. बड़ी जल्दी हिल जाती हूँ, वो यहाँ से कुछ आवाज आती है, वहां से कुछ आवाज आती है, एकदम से पूरा अंदर हिल जाता है. So this is what we have to be observant of. If you become aware of the weak spot in your envelope, a few minutes of, so this is what Priyanka was sharing earlier, a few minutes of concentration, of calling to the force of inner peace are sometimes enough for it to be set right, cured, and for the untoward thing to vanish. So we have to change our bad tastes, which are living with these wounds, not even recognizing that they are wounds and I am bleeding. We have to lose the taste for bleeding. So the moment a scratch happens, one applies this malham that mother talks about. And we all may have our own ways. Somebody may read a few lines of Savitri, somebody may put up some music, somebody may take 5 minutes of a walk and I'm healed. But that recognition has to be there that I require healing. Something is scratchy, something is not okay. To retain that balance. छलनी होने से पहले ही पता लग जाए फर्स्ट स्क्रैच पे कि कुछ हुआ है. So for that one has to be home. As Kabir ji says कि कहाँ है भाई, बंदा गायब है. Who is the malik of this house? So we have to be home, and that is why mindfulness helps. So everything connects here. That if mind is home, if I am with the breath in the body, then it is easier to see that ripple as it arises. And then one can work on it. So like, again, each paragraph in this book and wherever we read mother's words, as if it feels that these lines are enough for a lifetime. इसी पे काम कर ले तो हो जाएगा. बट हमारे लिए तो इतनी सारी चीजें हैं जो इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाती हैं. So this is what we have to remind ourselves again and again. To be obedient to the high command. Yeah, any reflections here you can take?
Um, when you were reading this, explaining this, I remembered, like, I have a question that when someone is trying to, um, when I am trying to um, have control of my body, of what is happening in the body, and the body talks back always. Like, if I'm tired, it will say you're tired. I'm sick, it will say I'm sick. And so this is the question I have, that how do I respond? Um, and I also have an example to share, that mothers in general, especially Indian mothers, my mother, if I have to talk about, I've seen that um, she would do, from house chores, filing taxes, to looking at, to following up on properties, everything. She would do it from day to night, and especially in, in South India, the humidity is so high in summers, and she would go out, she would do all this. And I, being a young guy, I go to the gym, I'm tired. Gym jaake मैं tired. मुझे सोना है बस. So I would ask my mom that, mother, that how are you able to have so much energy through the entire day, and yet come and yet make food in the night, my favorite food in the night, before you go back to sleep. And she would tell me that, every time her body tells her that you are tired, she would question it, that bus is pe tired, itne pe tired. And then she would tell me that the tiredness went away. And then she kept on going. Like, she kept on going. Even when she was sick, when she had an operation, the moment the operation was finished, she was back into working. Like, I get sick, I'm on the bed for 4 or 5 days. She gets sick one evening. The next morning she's back. And she's ambitious to take care of me and my father. That's one thing. Because she really loves us. And she can never, let us have outside food. But then also, she somehow, I don't know, like you say that last time you said that if one is having a goal, like, not a goal, but if one is able to do a physical activity, maybe that will, you know like charity or going out volunteering and all that, maybe that might give me more energy, because that's where, if I'm resonating towards it. So the question so anyway, I'm going a little off topic. So the question is, this back and forth between the vital and me, that the vital is saying, you're going to get sick, you're going to get, don't do this, you'll have, you'll feel bad, or you'll be tired and all that. So, so what is the progress in this, ma'am? Like, should I keep on telling it that, nahi, this won't, like, I have an issue with water. I move to a different place. I have in India, especially, that the water changes and my body reacts in a very bad way. I get sick the very next day. So how do I, like, address these things? I know there is a progress to, having that control, but what are the steps? Like, how does it happen?
I think first of all, steps won't be same for everyone. One thing which we have to keep in mind. So the same question somebody else may ask, and it would be again, context to context. Now, in your example, there are many things which are coming forward. One is, uh, with biological mothers, we have a very good example of self-forgetfulness. And mother talks about the joy of self-forgetfulness. And in self-forgetfulness, along with that, there is also love. Mother says, one drop of love, enough. बस हर चीज में वो डाल दो, लाइक इत्र जो होता है ना, फ्रेग्रेंस, परफ्यूम. So just one drop of love. Now mothers with biological mothers, I think it is a very good earthly example of us, for us, that how the divine mother would take care of each and every child. If a biological mother can do this much, one drop of love, and उसमें वो बॉडी भी नेग्लेक्ट हो जाती है, सब कुछ साइड पे हो जाता है, क्योंकि आपको करना है, आपको पता है आप कहाँ अवेलेबल होने चाहिए हो. But parallelly, having said that, that is why autoimmune conditions are more prevalent in females. Why? Because we have no borders. Relatively speaking, again, relatively speaking, not every female, but we let everyone trample upon us. So there is a specific, again, I'm just sharing a few layers that came while you were sharing, that we, first of all, self-forgetfulness is something, whenever you are putting yourself in some work, if you can forget yourself, mother talks about it at many places. Beautiful, you'll be first of all able to do it with joy and do it for the sake of doing it nicely and not caring that, oh, इससे मुझे नाम मिले या फेम मिले या कुछ रिस्पेक्ट मिले, वो गया भाड़ में, उसको आपने साइड कर दिया. All that you want is that you want to do it nicely, whatever is in front of you. So self-forgetfulness, love for work, whatever you are working, whoever is the person you are attending, you are not there. That situation is the most important in front of you. Love, one drop of love, self-forgetfulness, self-abnegation. And mother in prayers and meditations speaks about it. Parallelly, we also have to know there is a place for boundaries. There is a place for ego individuality. There is a place for borders, and we cannot do that without creating the borders. We let go of the borders because that creates a conflict, and that is why we have autoimmune disorders in females mostly, cancers mostly in females. Why? Because हम अपने ही दुश्मन हो गए ना. आप अपने दुश्मन हो गए. हाँ, दूसरे का आप कर लो जितना करना है, आप बहुत दयावान हो, बट आप अपने खुद के दुश्मन होके बैठे हो जहां से आप कर पा रहे हो, है ना. यू हैव बिकम द दुश्मन ऑफ द इंस्ट्रूमेंट इटसेल्फ. तो वो अगर हम लेट गो कर पाए, टू पैरेलली नर्चर अवर ओन सेल्व्स as we are nurturing the others. We are not yet the divine mother. If we look at the divine mother, how she was involved in the ashram day and night, when the active phase of the ashram began, she was sleeping so little, but she had the communion connect directly with the divine, and that is what fulfilled her, है ना. तो कहीं ना कहीं हमको वो फुलफिलमेंट चाहिए. हमारे साथ क्या होता है, हम परमात्मा बनने की कोशिश करते हैं, अभी तो इंसान भी नहीं बने और परमात्मा बनने की कोशिश करते हैं, उसमें फिर गड़बड़ घोटाला हो जाता है ना. हमारी फुलफिलमेंट हो नहीं रही, हम दिए जा रहे हैं, अच्छा इसका भी कर लें, उसका भी कर लें, तो वो सारा बॉडी कहती है भैया प्लीज बस कर लो, मेरा भी कर लो, है ना. होता है ये, स्पेशली इन इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट, ऑल्सो इन अदर कॉन्टेक्स्ट, कल्चर टू कल्चर इट विल डिपेंड. बट व्हेन वी आर गिविंग टू मच and we are not connected with that source which is the fountain of all the giving, then this happens that we suck our energy, and autoimmune diseases, autoimmunity is an attack on your own system. The army doesn't recognize भैया मेरा कौन है और पराया कौन है, और हम अपने साथ यही तो कर रहे हैं. हम क्या कह रहे हैं, I don't have any boundary. अच्छा तू भी आ जा, अच्छा तेरे को टाइम चाहिए, तू भी आ जा, अच्छा तू भी आ जा, तेरे को शॉपिंग जाना, मैं भी चलती हूँ, तो सबका कर रहे हो आप अपनी तरफ से. आपको लोग, if you listen to people outside views of you, everybody will say वाह क्या दयावान इंसान था, अरे इसको तो नहीं होना चाहिए था ये जो हुआ, है ना. बट उसको क्यों हुआ वो उसका हमको. So I'm just sharing a few reflection on it, that we have to कीप अवर, एंड वी आर नॉट येट द डिवाइन। या तो हो ना कि आपका कनेक्शन बिल्कुल डिवाइन मदर के जैसा हो, वो है तो फिर आप करो जो मदर कर रही थी। आप 2 घंटे सो, आप पूरे टाइम लेटर्स आंसर करते रहो सारे साधक के, सबकी लाइफ में इंडिविजुअल इंटरेस्ट ले लेके, बट वी आर नॉट देयर। हमारे पास लिमिटेड एनर्जी है, वो सकआउट हो जाती है। और फिर हम सकआउट एनर्जी से जब काम करते हैं तो बॉडी भी, कैसे बताए, बॉडी बोल सकती नहीं, तो वो डिजीज दे देती है, ऐसी इलनेस दे देती है जो आपको खुद ही बॉडी त्यागनी पड़ती है आपको, कि भैया बस, अब बस कर दो, अगले जन्म में देख लेना, समथिंग लाइक दैट। So we have to parallelly, since we are in ordinary consciousness, regular mortal consciousness, we have to parallelly sustain and nurture ourselves as we want to sustain and nurture others. If we have that connection, if we can continue that connection, then we can be self-forgetful, giving, and yet not wanting anything, because we are fulfilled all the time with that divine connection. और वो कौन बताएगा, वो मैं ही बताऊंगी, मुझे पता होगा अपने बारे में। So many things, like many layers when we were sharing. और वो जो आप कह रहे थे कि मम्मी कैसे करती हैं, drop of that love, and mother says, I was sharing with Taru the other day, 4 lines that I came across, beautiful lines, enough again for a lifetime. So mother says, take joy in everything you do. अब इस पे आई एम श्योर क्वेश्चन कुछ ना कुछ तो आया होगा, भाई ये कैसे पॉसिबल है, क्योंकि बहुत बहुत बार हम ऐसी चीजें कर रहे होते हैं जिसमें नहीं आ रहा होता जॉय। सो मदर सेज, फॉर हैविंग जॉय इन थिंग्स दैट यू डू, टेक इंटरेस्ट इन देम, become interested in those things that you are doing, whether it be cooking, cleaning, dusting, anything that it doesn't interest you, but become interested. अब किसी ने पूछा होगा, भाई मैं धक्का कैसे मारूं, अपने आप को कैसे इंटरेस्टेड कर लूं जो चीज मुझे नहीं इंटरेस्टिंग लग रही। नाउ शी सेज द अनदर सीक्रेट, थर्ड सीक्रेट, शी सेज टू बी इंटरेस्टेड इन व्हाट यू डू, ट्राई टू डू इट बेटर एंड बेटर। देखो आप क्या साइंस ऑफ लिविंग, एब्सोल्युटली द साइंस ऑफ लिविंग, टू बी इंटरेस्टेड इन व्हाट यू डू, try to do it better and better, and when we are doing it better and better, then we have progress, and ultimately the fourth she shares, in progress we have true joy, when we are able to do anything better and better. आप एक्सेल शीट पे काम कर रहे हो, आप वर्ड डॉक्यूमेंट पे काम कर रहे हो, आप घर की सफाई कर रहे हो, आप चादर बिछा रहे हो, बेडशीट, अरे कुछ भी, इट कुड बी एज ट्रिवियल एज एनी मंडेन ऑर्डिनरी वर्क, किसी से आप इंटरैक्ट कर रहे हो, उस इंटरैक्शन को विलिंगनेस टू हैव इट बेटर एंड बेटर, लिसनिंग, वांटिंग लिसनिंग टू बी बेटर एंड बेटर, स्पीकिंग, let me speak those words which are required and eliminate all that is unrequired, walking more mindfully, walking with a nice poised gait. And mother talks about one incident where she saw someone walking so beautifully, and she said that there must be some art of walking, because this is what walking is, so much of grace. So anything, any trivial instant of life, and if we become interested in it, we want to do it better and better, if that aspiration is there, then we have joy, for which all of us strive. So ये है what mother gives us, the hint and the clues. लेकिन हमारी कैपेसिटी की तो दाद देनी पड़ेगी, हम अभी भी इसको इग्नोर करके, चलो अच्छा बोला होगा, मदर ने तो बहुत सारी बातें बोली, कितनी का ध्यान रखें। और अब ये सिर्फ 4 लाइन उठा लो, आप उसको दीवार पे चिपका लो, लिख के रोज पढ़ लो, रोज अपने आप को याद दिला लो, सारा पूरा योग हो जाएगा, इन्हीं 4 लाइनों में योग हो जाएगा, कर्म योग, भक्ति योग, ज्ञान योग, सब कुछ इसी में हो जाएगा।
Thank you, ma'am. And ma'am, can you also share those lines in the group?
I will share, yes, I will share.
Thank you.
नींद, मैंने काफी लोगों को जैसे नींद में प्रॉब्लम होती है, नींद नहीं आ रही ढंग से, या आ रही है तो अच्छे से नहीं आ रही, डीप स्लीप नहीं हो पा रही, वी कैन एक्चुअली बिकम इंटरेस्टेड इन स्लीप देन। ये अच्छा, कौन सी चीजें हैं जो मुझे हेल्प करती हैं अच्छी नींद लाने में, कौन सी स्टेट में जब मैं सोता हूँ तब बेटर नींद आती है, कौन सी स्टेट में जब मैं सोता हूँ तब बेटर नींद नहीं आती है. सो लाइक अ क्यूरियस साइंटिस्ट यू आर एक्सप्लोरिंग योर ओन बीइंग. So that brings, along with progress, it brings joy. How simple. Yeah, sounds simple. And it is simple. If we become interested, it is simple. So anything here? Anyone?
Uh, couple of things that came to my mind when I was hearing what Jagan was just sharing. And it's so relatable. Uh, when we see, often we see outer actions of people around us, also who are very close to us. But that is so less, because with what attitude that action is being done is so much more profound. And that attitude, um, as he was talking about his mother, that so much of work and yet with such joy, and then he did share that when being asked that don't you get tired, and or when she gets tired, she tells her own body or her own mind that बस इतनी जल्दी और इतनी सी बात पे थक गए. तो ये जो उनका कॉन्वर्सेशन जो अपने से चलता है, ये इतना सुंदर और इतना प्रोफाउंड है और इतना थेराप्यूटिक है. ये सब कुछ हमारे पास है और ये हमको पता भी है, येट हम कहीं ना कहीं ये चीज अपने ऊपर नहीं कर पाते. जैसे as you just shared that whenever you visit different places, the change of water brings in some kind of illness or some kind of discomfort in the body. Now this certainly does happen to you. It is not something that doesn't happen, but often in all of in the life of all of us, कई चीजें जो हमारे साथ हुई हैं, जो whatever has happened, and that has created such strong belief that whenever we repeat that kind of a situation is repeated, it is in an auto mode. क्योंकि हमारे दिमाग को ये पता है, क्योंकि आप तो सोच हमेशा ही रहे हो ना, अब हम कहीं और जाने वाले हैं, अब हमारा ट्रैवल आने वाला है, तो ऑटोमेटिकली ब्रेन सेल्स को ये पता है ट्रैवल आने वाला है, तो चेंज ऑफ वाटर और अब डिजीज, ये ऑलरेडी एज अ मेमोरी स्टोर्ड है, ये कंडीशनड है. तो क्या हम अपनी जिंदगी इस कंडीशनिंग से ही, क्या हम इससे बाहर नहीं निकल सकते? और मुझे लगा कि अभी रिसेंटली देयर इज समथिंग दैट आई एम वर्किंग ऑन माय ओन सेल्फ, दैट आई एम ट्राइंग टू जस्ट be little more disciplined about my food. And या फिर कभी कभी इन बिटवीन ऐसी चीजें खा ली आउट ऑफ जस्ट मजे मजे के लिए, ठीक है अच्छा लग रहा है, मिठाई है चाहे खा लिया, ऐसा नहीं कि नहीं खाना चाहिए, बट व्हाट आई एम सेइंग दैट वो मेरी नीड नहीं है बॉडी की, बट आई एम जस्ट डूइंग इट फॉर द सेक ऑफ टेस्ट, फॉर द सेक ऑफ प्लेजर. तो मैंने सोचा क्या ऐसे ही चलता रहेगा, एंड एंड आई एम नॉट लाइकिंग सब, एक फीलिंग अच्छी नहीं आती है, समटाइम्स यू फील ओ स्टफ्ड और व्हाटएवर. So very recently, when I had the certain kind of a impulse to kind of eat something, I deliberately told my mind that the body doesn't need this, and I have been working on this on my own self by telling my mind, जरूरत नहीं है बॉडी को इतना ज्यादा फूड की, ये मेरा लालच है. And when I say this, when I say this very strongly, or just say this with consciously, with awareness, कि जरूरत नहीं है, अभी भूख नहीं लगी है, ये तुम अगर उस समय गिव इन करो तो एकदम से भूख भी लगने लग जाएगी, बिल्कुल पेट में भूख लगेगा और ऐसा लगेगा कि इसके बिना रहा नहीं जाएगा. But I found this very powerful, very empowering, that when I made up my mind first, and when I, in my own mind, told my own mind or my own body, whatever, I gave this signal of thought to my own body, my body obeyed. And every day, it's been a week, about a week, I am not having those cravings. I am able to discipline myself to a certain kind of food. कि मुझे ये खाना है, और मैं ये भी नहीं कह रही कि बहुत rigid हो जाओ, as Gita says, कि एक middle path. So I'm not asking any extreme. I'm just telling my own example. So I'm not saying anybody can follow it or not, but just this very thought that if we tell our own self, but अंदर पहले ये belief, ये realization पहले होती है, देन उस विश्वास के साथ, बिकॉज हम अपने से झूठ नहीं बोल सकते. अगर हमारे मन के अंदर वो विश्वास नहीं है और हम कहने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं जस्ट बिकॉज कि किसी ने कहा है, तो इट प्रोबेबली माइट नॉट वर्क. But if it has created a certain kind of understanding in me, and with that understanding, with that belief, if I implant a certain thought, then I might decondition myself to something which I'm so strongly conditioned. और ये हो सकता है एक बार में ना हो, but over a period of time it is possible. So how strong our instrument of mind body is, it's like, I mean, it amazes me sometimes, So I just thought of sharing this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mother talks about this power of thought and imagination. And it's a beautiful way to change our very deep conditionings, as you were sharing. Yes. And even when, you were sharing that about that travel example, तो अगर वो कंडीशनिंग आ रही है सामने की, एकदम से वो एंटिसिपेटिंग द ट्रैवल, दैट फियर इज कमिंग अप, एंड इफ वन रिकॉग्नाइजेस, इफ वंस कॉन्शियसनेस इज एज दैट लेवल दैट आप उसको देख पा रहे हो, है ना, कि अच्छा ये आ रहा है, वापस आ रहा है वो फियर एज द ट्रैवल इज अप्रोचिंग. एक्चुअली वी हैव सच अ ब्यूटिफुल टूल ऑफ रिमेंबरिंग एंड ऑफरिंग, सो शोइंग इट टू द मदर दैट मदर ये फिर से आ रहा है अब आप देख लो. सो वो दैट मे ऑल्सो help, along with what you were sharing, that affirmations. And this reminds me again, because I reconnect the dots, that initially when I was diagnosed many years ago, and I was very anxious about what would happen to my family, little children, and what will happen to me, the body. I wrote down so many times, I don't even remember how many times, unless it becomes my conditioning changed, that faith became more concrete and the fear kind of withered away. Till that time I kept on writing, my bladder is healthy, full of light, mother is taking over me. At that time I didn't know the mother, but the divine, the divine knows better, and the higher is looking after me. So that became the grain of my body, so that slowly the fear and the anxiety, they were out of, they still may be there, but at least for that period, that's really helped changing that conditioning that you were talking about, that grosser conditioning. Yeah, so we must make use of this power of thought, imagination, affirmation. And writing really helps because it involves the body. So yeah.
And I also wanted to just quickly add that whatever thoughts, affirmations and whatever, of course divine grace तो साथ में है ही, उसके बिना वो thought भी शायद, वो thought भी जब आती है तो वो grace ही है जो that that you are able to think the way you are able to think. So it is very important, like a thought like, I don't want to be sick, and the same thing, I want to be healthy. Both have the same meaning, but here if you are projecting a word like sick or disease or illness, then somewhere instead of putting a negative word which you don't want, it's always better to use a positivity as much as you can do this. I read it somewhere in some book, and like about the thoughts. अक्सर हम कहते हैं कि हमको बीमार नहीं पड़ना, हमको ये नहीं खाना, हमको क्या नहीं करना है, ये हम सबको पता है कि क्या नहीं करना है, ये नहीं करना, ऐसे ये नहीं पसंद है मुझे, यहाँ मैं जाता हूँ तो ऐसे हो जाता है, ये मेरे लिए बुरा है। इतना क्लैरिटी है हमारे दिमाग में, बट क्या अच्छा है, क्या पसंद है, ये कहीं ना कहीं हमने, हमारा वो आदत सा बन गया है। तो हमको स्वस्थ रहना है इतना ही काफी है, हमको खुश रहना है इतना, इसी को हम विश्वास दिलाएं अपने मन को, हमको प्यार करना है अपने आप से, मुझे नफरत नहीं करना, ये क्यों, मुझे करना क्या है, प्यार करना है। तो ये मुझे बहुत स्ट्रांग लगा था जब मैं कहीं पे पढ़ी थी, और इनफैक्ट आई हर्ड समवन एंड इट वाज सो स्ट्रांग कि हाँ सही में बीमार नहीं पड़ना ये ज्यादा इजीली दिमाग में आता है, बट स्वस्थ रहना, I want to be healthy or I am healthy. Rather, it also said that don't think of anything, any affirmation in the past, or no, sorry, in the future, because future is always remain a future. मुझे स्वस्थ होना है तो वो होना होता ही रहेगा. You know, even if you are not, you should always say that in this moment I am healthy, because only this is the moment that is the truth. Past and future, everything is, as we all know about it, I don't have to talk about it. So I just thought of sharing this little bit. So that's it.
Oh,
Thank
yes,
you.
very, very relevant, and this, I think this is very important because we often say that affirmations don't work, but they don't work because we don't do it in the right manner. And when we are doing affirmations, what you were sharing is very, very important, that to cultivate the positive that we want, keep on negating the negatives, but what about that we want to cultivate, and plus that, along with that, to feel that empowerment right now. So what you shared is very, very important, that when I am saying I am healthy right now, you have to feel that power in the body, that how will I feel when I am healthy right now. That power has to be felt in the body. So when I say, like for example, I am anxious about my children, what would happen of my children? So the moment I say, I know mother is looking after my children, the moment I write this down, how do I feel in the body? In the body, this has to be felt viscerally. You have to feel that power in the body. How do I feel when I know my children and myself, we are taken care of by the mother? And that is what I feel that we miss in an affirmation. It becomes mechanical rather than we feel that empowerment in the body, because for the negative thoughts we feel the disempowerment in the body. So that is what has to change. The empowerment has to come along with the affirmation. So yes, very, very relevant, I believe, what you were sharing, if we can make it our practice. And regarding that travel example or any other example, so when we are now approaching the travel, feeling that empowerment in the body, that I am healthy throughout the travel. And how does it make me feel? You feel it in the body. Mother is with me, and even if whatever happens, mother wants me to go through this, I will go through this. And see what kind of a solidity it brings in the body. That if mother wants me to go through anything, here I am ready. There must be a reason that mother wants me to go through it. So there comes a solidity in the body. So we have to keep empowering the body, because at times we are just in the thoughts and they don't translate in the body consciousness. So that connection has to be felt within. Because the weakness and disempowerment all the time, if we see, we are feeling weak in the body. So very, very, I think we can't stress it enough. Okay, so my suggestion is that we can maybe stop here today, because there would be a new part that starts now. What are the causes of accidents, which we can maybe take next time. We have many, many things to practice at home in our day-to-day life throughout this week. Little things. We have to stop scratching We have to positively affirm all Mother's presence, grace, peace, stillness. The moment we see the scratch, become aware of the scratch. So this can be our homework if we want some homework. Yeah. And begin to cultivate this. Yeah. So, any last comments, anyone, before we take a moment in silence?
Ma'am, where did we stop here in this passage?
Yeah, we stopped on this end of this page, not the page 57, on this part, psychological states and the nervous envelope. So, we'll begin from this question on page number 57.
Thank you.
Yeah, any last comments, anyone? Okay, so if in the absence of comments, let's take a moment in silence, sharing, dedicating all the merit that we may have collected, accumulated throughout the session, sharing it like we share prasad to all the sentient beings near, far. May our hearts be full, minds simple, nervous envelopes intact, and may we have lots of joy and progress in our life. If we continue working on ourselves, that brings joy. So may we all have that joy in our life. Thank you, everyone.